I'm Diana Ketcham. I have a literature and publishing background. Am officially the editor at the publishing company Arion Press, and Andrew Hoyem is a fine printer and the publisher. In 2000, we became preservationists with our founding nonprofit, the Grabhorn Institute, whose mission is to preserve the historic typecasting, printing, and bookmaking facilities of Arion Press and Mackenzie and Harris in San Francisco. We are not involved in preserving a building, but an industrial ensemble and the skills that are necessary to keep it working. Arion Press was started in 1974, was then and remains, as Bill kindly said, the foremost fine printing company in the United States and the most important publisher of deluxe limited edition books and artist books. Here you'll see some examples of the books that we produce.
This is the, we're going in reverse chronological order. This is our most recent publication. It is our 100th book. It's Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass in the text of the 1855 first edition, which was a blockbuster. No one had ever read poetry remotely like this before. Handset type, dampened handmade paper for the printing. The libretto for the opera Porgy and Bess with 16 lithographs by the artist Kara Walker. Book by Diana Ketcham about, it's a new book, not a chestnut yet, but a book about Thomas Jefferson's walks in Paris during the happiest 5 years of his life when he was the ambassador or the minister in Paris, with photographs by Michael Kenna. Poetry of Sappho, the ancient Greek poet, in Greek and with a new English translation, and with abstract prints by the artist Julie Meritou. We did a 2-volume Don Quixote, 2009-2010, with prints by William T. Wiley, 97 prints in the book. Our largest project was a folio Bible that we're still binding, first issued in 2000. Large folio Bible, a lectern Bible. Hand-illuminated initial letters. Selection of poems by Emily Dickinson with prints by Kiki Smith. Cane by Jean Toomer is a classic of Harlem Renaissance. It has woodblock prints by the sculptor Martin Purrier. Calvino's Invisible Cities with prints by Wayne Thibault. John Ashbery's Self-Portrait in a Convex Mirror in a circular format in a stainless steel canister with a record album, and 8 prints by 8 artists, including de Kooning. And what's generally considered our most well-known book, a folio edition of Moby Dick, 600 pages of hand-set type, again on handmade paper, specially made back in 1979, with wood engravings by Barry Moser.
Our other business is Mackenzie and Harris, also known as M&H Type, which is the oldest and largest fully functioning type foundry in the nation. It was started in 1915, in connection with the World's Fair, the Panama Pacific International Exposition of that year, that had a demonstration of monotype casting machines. It later became one of the most important type houses in the country. The equipment that belonged to Arion Press originated with the Grabhorn Press, a famous fine printing establishment in business from 1920 to 1965, and continuing with Andrew Hoyem as a partner up until 1973. The Grabhorn collection of types goes back to the 19th century and includes some of the best types designed and produced during the first half of the 20th century. The next slides will show you the crafts practiced at our old location on Bryant Street, beginning with the with hand setting, including printing, casting, and binding.
Hand composition, type in the composing room. Here, Jerry Redden and I are printing the Bible on a large cylinder press. And handbook binding, sewing with linen thread over linen tapes, pages of the Bible, rounding, backing, one volume at a time.
The accident that made us accidental preservationists was the eruption of the dot-com real estate boom in the South of Market area of San Francisco in 1999. And this was the historic event that put this priceless historic assemblage of equipment and tools in jeopardy. Our landlords were unwilling to renew the lease on the building we had been for many, many years. They were convinced that they could sell it for $8 million to a developer who would then rent out to the dot-commers. We were fortunate in that we were in the midst of printing the Bible at the time. And the San Francisco Chronicle gave us some very sympathetic coverage, essentially presenting the developers as these greedy, soulless monsters who were putting people who were printing God's work out into the streets. So we had a lot of immediate sympathy, not only from industrial preservationists, a group we had been completely unaware of before who embraced us, but also many, many people in the community. And the move was delayed, which gave us time to make important alliances with our Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi and with the one of the trustees of the new then national park, the Presidio, Michael Heyman, who had just retired as being the secretary of the Smithsonian. Mike Heyman recognized that we had a museum and said that this is something we simply had to preserve. So in order to preserve our factory, we had to move it.
So here we are moving out of Bryant Street into the building we now occupy with that tall smokestack in the Presidio. This is what the carpenter shop, it was a building with many uses. It was mainly a steam plant, but what was a carpenter shop became our gallery. This is what we encountered when we were moving in. Became the press room and what became the type foundry. Here we're moving the big cylinder press out of Bryant Street and on flatbed trucks. So we were carrying the other printing equipment on across town to the Presidio. Here is that press going into our building, and that wonderful photograph of men rolling the press into its into the press room.
The move to the new building had many, many advantages for us. We're now in an industrial building with industrial elevators, all of the sorts of amenities that we really need to move heavy materials in and out. There is much more light. Andrew, do you want to go ahead with this?
Sure. Yeah. This is our gallery, and you see there's an overhead rail that's was considered by the Presidio to be historic, so it couldn't be removed, and we used it to create more display space, and we use this for lectures and other public events. There you see the hanging panels. Press room and composing room. These are platen presses in the foreground, hand-fed platen presses. This is the big two-color cylinder press used for most of our book work. A smaller single-color Heidelberg. Type from the type foundry. And here's the type foundry with casting machines. And the crew, younger fellows have been trained as apprentices. Monotype keyboard, which punches a paper tape. It's 19th century computer technology, which then drives the casting machine, telling it which letter or space to cast individually in line. And the bindery.
Thank you.